You could live 100 years. You could live 1,000 years. You could live until the sun expands and consumes the earth before eventually resting as a white dwarf for the rest of time. And you might not see a dumber basketball game than we saw last night. We discuss it with Katie Heindl on today's show. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to episode number 1314 of Locked On Raptors for Thursday, January the 5th. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 9 seasons, and I can tell you one thing. I've never seen a game like that last night in that very long time. Of course, you can find all of my work over on Twitter at WoodleySean. You can follow, subscribe to, rate, and review the podcast for free on your favorite podcast apps. And of course, we are on YouTube on video each and every day. Hi to the video people. Hello. And if you want to go and support the show on video, you can go to YouTube. Just search up Locked On Raptors. It'll pop right up because we got that SEO on point. Hit the big red subscribe button, and you have done a wonderful service to me and all the other fine folks who grace this show with their presence, including one, Katie Heindl. It's been a tough week for Katie, down with a migraine. The migraine gods have finally forgiven her for whatever she did last week. I don't know what you did, Katie, but man, oh man, they had you. They had your number, but you're back. You're here. It's not a whatevs Wednesday, so we lose the alliteration, but it is Thursday, and I'm very, very glad, Katie, that we have you on the show to talk about that batshit basketball game that went down last night. You were in attendance. We're going to get into our big takeaways. We're going to try and determine what the single dumbest thing about the game was in segment number 2. We've got the good, the bad, and the coming up later on. But Katie, Fred VanVleet said after the game that the air in the building was very weird. Can you confirm this is true? What were just like your original first takeaways sitting there watching that whole thing unfold from the 13-12 first quarter to the 28 points the Raptors scored in the final 3 minutes? Boy, oh boy, Katie, a lot to dive into from this one. What were your sort of initial takeaways?
I can't confirm that the air was weird. I didn't feel anything, but I will say when you come out of a 72-hour migraine and you're just like relieved to be up amongst the living again, my barometer might have been a little off. Maybe I was just like too up here and the air was like wobbling down here. Though I think, I hate to admit it, but I think the best summary of the game was probably Embiid. I have his tweet right here. This Bucks Raptors game is just stupid and doesn't make sense. LMAO. Yeah.
Podcast over. Thanks, Joel. We'll give you we'll Venmo you some money for your contributions to the show. Bye, everybody.
I have to say, I did not think I was expecting a slog, a fight.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting such a deep, just almost like metaphysical slog. A situation where it seemed like both teams were just allergic to making their shots. I have also never experienced, you felt this when you're in an arena and the mood will kind of catch, right? And you can feel that, but usually you feel that for one team. Usually the home team. We've been in situations where that's definitely been something that's felt real and palpable with the Raptors, but I've never seen a mood catch to the other team, like some type of airborne virus, perhaps. But it's it definitely is very weird when you're then in the post game and Doug Smith and people who've been there for a long time are hearkening back to games, just to the weirdest that they can think of, all the way back to
Michael Ruffin, Morris Peterson stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And it still doesn't quite measure up to that.
No, because this just compiled weird things one on top of another. It's not like it just saved all the weird for the last 5 minutes or anything like that. It was weird from literally the first minute of the game. And I'm having a hard time with this one, Katie, because yesterday on the show, We come in ahead of the homestand, previewing the homestand that is going to make or break the Toronto Raptors season, determine the course, not only of them, but if you believe reports about what the league is doing and waiting for the Raptors to make a call, going to determine the course of the entire NBA between now and the NBA trade deadline. And I feel like we're supposed to have like grand opinions on the Raptors laying one of the worst offensive duds you've ever seen against the Bucks, having this, sort of very disappointing loss when you kind of sum it all up. I feel like it's supposed to be something that we use to draw grand conclusions about the path forward, but I kind of think the game was too weird and dumb to do anything with, and that leaves me in a weird spot as a professional take-haver. It's just, all of the implications of this game, of this homestand, they still exist, they still apply, but for one day, it was kind of nice, and I'm just going to try to do that today. It's nice to turn your brain off and just let a really dumb sporting event wash over you, because I know the Raptors lost. I know it was disappointing. We'll get to some of the disappointing elements of it, but also sometimes this is like exactly what you need to brighten up a Wednesday in January, right? Like this is exactly why the regular season is fun. It's why it keeps our attention. It's why it's entertaining. Is you get random things happening like that game that I don't think anyone's ever going to forget, regardless of the outcome. That Gary Trent Jr. shot is on highlight reels for the rest of time, and there's something to that. I know everybody is anxious and just like can't wait for the deadline to come so they can trade all the players away or whatever, but for a day I kind of just feel like let's embrace how silly that was, because Katie, when the sports are dumb, the sports are good.
Entertaining. I have to say, it was extremely exciting. Mm-hmm. It is always very fun when everybody on press row becomes like a fan.
Yes.
And that did happen when Gary made that shot, when he forced overtime, when you come back and make 17 points in 74 seconds and you made 12 points. You made 12. Yeah, you had 12 shots in the first quarter.
Yes.
Alone. So there definitely was a palpable mood shift. And I think that kind of weirdness is really fun. It does sort of spark and remind you why sometimes the result of a game doesn't matter. Sometimes it is fun to just be engaged in a game. That said, It was a tough game to keep.
Disappointing.
But it wasn't that difficult because not just the quarters, but I know you have a list, but all the weird things that happened felt like little acts unto themselves in a game. It felt very cinematic. It doesn't mean it was a good movie, but it felt very cinematic. Maybe more of a French avant-garde, surrealist film.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bit more of a meathead take on that. I thought this game was cool and enjoyable for the same reasons that people like The Room, the Tommy Wiseau film that everybody has probably seen at this point, because it's not really a cult classic anymore. It's just a classic, baby. Bad things can be fun. Katie, was there anything basketball-wise that you feel like can be taken away from this game? I do think it's worth remarking upon, as horrible as the Raptors' offense was in this game, and we'll get to the way the Bucks guarded Toronto in the back part of the show. I did think I was bloody impressed by the way the Raptors defended in this game, and the fact that their utter incompetence on the offensive end did not bleed into their incredible defensive effort, I thought was commendable. They forced 12 turnovers out of Giannis. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that in the next segment when we talk about dumb things that happened. Obviously he still goes for a 30-point triple-double, but that's just what Giannis does. I thought, considering that defense has been the bigger struggle for the Raptors of late, as much as the offense is a problem and was very much a problem last night, they probably fell 19 spots in the standings of offense down to 34th or whatever out of 30 teams. The defense was there actual legitimate positive signs there that I think can be kind of built upon if you are the Raptors. What were your thoughts on that? Or does it not even matter because of how dumb it all was?
No, the defense was good. I think, you build a wall around Giannis. You force him into a career high turnover situation for him. You hold somebody who's been scoring 40 points a game to 30 points. I have the box score right here. And half of those, 15 of those are at the free throw line anyway.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that's telling, and that is saying something. I think there were some offensive, I don't want to say flourishes, like brief sparks. Notably with Scotty Barnes, I think late in the game, it does suck that you didn't see that offensive energy, whether that's directly from him, whether that's from the plays being drawn up for him in the position Nick Nurse and co are putting him in, whether it's a combo of both potentially. I'm not sure. You're seeing Gary have some shots finally fall, and like having them fall in crunch time when you needed them, and be that like clutch shooter. And, frankly, for all the crap that's falling on him post game, and I'm sure today, you've got Fred VanVleet holding your team in the game.
Yeah.
For 3 quarters, and I said this earlier, like on the radio, but you don't get to, having Fred as a scapegoat is strange to me, because you don't get to a point when you're even up to make it to overtime unless you had him keeping you alive for like the previous 3 quarters. So it's tough. It's tough to like generate a spark when there's not much there, and when you've got it like happening disparately from guy to guy to guy and not collectively all together, which is actually, that's what you need to win a game. That's what's been lacking for so long, like throughout this. You can't call it a slump anymore. It's just this stretch of time. Maybe the slump is here to stay. I don't know. But
yeah, this might just be our reality, Katie. Who's to say? Yeah.
And I think I'm again looking at the box score. If Fred's the only one that is like a plus to you on the floor, I do think that also says something. That might be it. Like,
look,
that might be it.
There's not a whole lot to try to pull from this one to like make salient points going forward, except for, we'll talk about Fred. Tomorrow's episode, Joe Wolfon's going to come on the podcast. We're just going to examine the question of trading Fred or not. It's an unfortunate elephant in the room as it stands because of the realities of how contracts in the NBA and team building work. But to not think that Fred VanVleet is neither good nor valuable, despite his shooting troubles, despite the fact that, yes, he has the lowest field goal percentage of anyone in the league so far this season. That's not good, but it's also okay to acknowledge that he was the guy who kept them in this game for 3 quarters, and they are nowhere near overtime without his efforts. We'll get into his miss later on in the show as well, because I have a bit of a soapbox to jump on. But before we do that, I got to tell you about another box, which is a box of Built Bars, which is something you should go and purchase from your local Walmart, Sam's Club. Those are the places right now where they're flying off the shelves, baby. You're looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, and you got to try Built Bar. This time of year, I am currently weaning myself off of garbage. I can't really quite do it. I'm still eating about a chocolate bar a night of what's left over from the holidays, but I'm slowly getting back to something resembling a non-goblin diet, and Built Bars are a great way to do it because they trick me into thinking I'm being indulgent and having sweets when actually they're just good for me. They're giving me 17 grams of protein, just 130 calories, and only 4 grams of sugar in the standard bar. They've got all sorts of amazing flavors. You got churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, so many more. They've got their Built Puffs as well. They're delicious, delectable marshmallow delights, and you can go and get yourself a box of Built Bars, whichever flavor, maybe a mixed box, maybe a single flavor that really tickles your fancy. You can go to Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. Pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate or coconut puffs. So many more options for you. Go and check them out at Sam's Club right now. You can get a 13-bar box if you're down in the States. Of course, no Sam's Club up here these days, but go and get yourself whatever quantity of Built Bars from the Walmart or Sam's Club near you. Try them out. They're fantastic. All right, Katie, I have assembled now a list of some of the dumbest things that took place in this game, some of the dumbest facts and stats and instances. We're going to try to, in the spirit of this game not making any sense, we're going to try to determine what the dumbest thing about this game was. Should be a fun exercise. Basically how it'll work is I'm going to read a dumb thing. We'll determine whether it is the dumbest thing we've read so far. It'll be like a ladder of sorts, if you will, and we will determine through the process of elimination which one is the dumbest by the end of this 8 to 9 minute segment. Katie, are you ready?
I am.
All right. Let's go with just a basic one. The fact that the Raptors started this basketball game, a professional NBA basketball game, 3 of 35 from the field. It's the first thing I've read, so it's the dumbest so far. Agreed?
Put it up top. Yeah, you got to put it up top for now.
All right. How about this one? I pulled from the advanced box score from the Raptors game, the shot tracking data when it comes to the openness of three-point shots. The Raptors took 46 threes in this game. Katie, the fact that they went 7 of 41 on open or wide open threes while going 2 of 5 on tightly contested threes, is that dumber than the fact that they started 3 of 35 overall? 7 of 41 on open or wide open threes as determined by the tracking data.
Not for this, not right now.
Yeah, this is just kind of standard, actually. Never
part
mind.
For the course. Unfortunately, so yeah, you got to put that lower.
Okay, so we still have the fact the Raptors started this game 3 of 35 is the dumbest thing. Let's go to the next thing. Giannis having more turnovers than any player had made field goals at the half. Is that dumber than the Raptors starting 3 of 35?
No, because that's net positive still.
Yeah, that's just the Raptors doing good work. Yeah. And probably in line with their typical field goal production anyway. Okay, how about this one, Katie? The fact that the Raptors made a substitution at 6:12 and it was still 90 seconds before they made a single basket in this game.
I mean, they didn't, this game didn't get to 100 points until 2 minutes left in overtime.
Yeah.
So no.
So you think the fact that they went 3 of 35 to start the game is dumber than the fact that they needed to make a substitution just to score a single basket?
I do. Because do you have the fact that first single basket was a free throw?
Yes. No. I meant field goal. Sorry, I should have said. I should have specified field goal make. Man. No,
because the first basket was a free throw, and I've never. It was like playoff level elation when Pascal made that.
Yeah.
It's that's not dumber to me.
Okay. Let's just go basic. The score after 12 minutes of NBA basketball, Katie, in a league in which the Oklahoma City Thunder scored 150 points without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander against probably the best defensive team there is, all told, in the Boston Celtics. A league where offense is completely spiraling out of control. The score after 12 minutes was 13-12. Is that the dumbest thing?
No, because it just shows you the Raptors and the Bucks' collective commitment to normalizing this offensive. The offensive is offense is running rampant in the NBA. It has to be reined in. We want reasonable, trotting, sludgy, workaholic basketball.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that the organized nature of this protest against offense makes it so it's not that dumb. Yeah,
to the NBA's problem of scoring.
I like that this is now a leftist thing. Too much scoring distribution needs to be, I don't know. We don't need to occupy Wall Street over scoring. I get what you're saying. Let's go now to the next fact. The Raptors scored more points than we saw in the entire first quarter combined in this game in the final 3 minutes and 50 seconds of regulation. Is that dumber than starting 3 of 35?
Yeah,
we have a winner. Maybe.
The way.
Yeah, that was truly surreal. More than a quarter of their points coming in 1/12 of the basketball game. Cool. The next thing I have here on the list of dumb events is an event. It's Grayson Allen bag tapping Gary Trent Jr. on a 3-point attempt in the final minute, up 3 possessions to make it a 2-possession game.
Could not keep his hands to himself, for Fred, for Gary, to the point where Fred is so frustrated at one point, he's He's forcing a review.
Mm-hmm.
He just stopped playing and just started going like this.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really wanted to call
Mm-hmm.
a timeout or a review, but they did. Secaucus like definitely did the work last night. I don't know what is up. Like, I thought they were gonna fight. Honestly.
Yeah, Grayson Allen's the worst. I think this
but
is
no, I can't
like,
say
recognized.
I can't say that's weird because again, this is a weirdly par for the course for Grayson.
Yeah,
Allen.
that's an extremely Grayson Allen thing to do, actually. Breaking legs and tapping sacks. That is Grayson Allen's whole thing. Also his thing, this might be a sneaky thing for dumbest thing. I think just like dumbest possible conclusion. Grayson Allen hit the game-winning 3 in this game. Is that dumber than them scoring 28 minutes in the final 350?
I mean, it makes me angrier.
Yeah.
It's like par for the course of this game because he hit that shot, and I think he also hit the shot just before to inch them up, like, into the lead and make this more of like an unattainable comeback. So it's still not as dumb as 17 points in 34 seconds or whatever, but it's up there.
Crazy. Okay, next up, Scotty Barnes didn't score a single basket until the 6:45 mark of this game, and then scored 9 baskets over the next 11:45, most of them over the presumptive defensive player of the year, Brook Lopez, with relative ease. This was pretty dumb, Katie. Is it dumber than them scoring 28 points in 350?
No, because again, this seems par for the course for Scotty through the last few contests, which is a mystery to me. As I mentioned earlier, I am unsure if this is just like Scotty becoming loose and free the longer he plays in a game and getting kind of like offensively dialed in at the worst possible last moment, or if it's like the coaching staff being like, all right, just go out there and do that. I feel like I don't know where the truth is. Maybe somewhere in the middle, because Nick Nurse keeps saying he needs Scotty Barnes to play with offensive intensity all game. Yet it seems he's being held back a little. So this should be dumb. So many of these should be the dumbest and only.
Yeah, but actually, I think we're maybe just summing up the Toronto Raptors season right now. And maybe this is more sobering than I thought it would be. Lastly, you have the Raptors having 116 to 88 edge in field goal attempts and still losing. I know the Raptors' whole thing is getting more field goal attempts up than the other team, but getting 28 more field goal attempts and losing by 3 seems pretty dumb. No? Katie? Is this dumber than them scoring 28 and 350?
No. This is the second dumbest thing, though.
It's pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And lastly, I have here the Milwaukee Bucks had a 73 to 47 edge in rebounding in this game, obviously tied to the disparity in shot attempts, but 73 rebounds, Katie. That's a lot of freaking rebounds. I don't know if I've seen a 7 in front of rebounds. It's almost as impressive as the 7 in front of Donovan Mitchell's score line from a couple nights ago. Was that dumber than the 28 points in 3 minutes and 50 seconds?
No, because I watched Brook Lopez and Giannis all night, tearing the ball away, on both ends of the floor. So can't say it's too weird. I have like a couple. These are maybe more like
please do.
Like weird things. I just think it's very funny because this kept flash. I have this on my box score, but this also just kept flashing at the bottom of the box score on the TVs. Bucks biggest lead, Bucks 21, Raptors 1.
It's good. It's good.
And that last night there was a choice. I hope this was a choice made to merge with the energy of the evening. Though this may have been a choice already said. I don't know how long it takes to inflate this guy, but that the gigantic, my favorite Raptor, the gigantic inflatable was out juddering around last night, looking unhinged, out of control as always, and very much matched the fevered and strange energy of the night.
Yeah.
I hope that was a late game ops decision where they were like, we got to ride this.
Yeah, we got to we got to meet the moment with our game ops. Yeah.
Raptor up.
Oh man, if you out there have something that you thought was dumber than any of the things we just listed off over the course of 12 minutes of podcast, please drop it in the comments, and that would be very much appreciated.
I have one more dumber thing too.
Oh yes,
there
please.
Were prolonged sequences of offensive possessions where I've never seen so much ball movement, only because nobody wanted to shoot, because I don't think anybody wanted to miss anymore.
Yes. Actually, sort of last late contender for dumbest thing. Both of these teams, before the halfway point of the second quarter, had 0 of 13 spells from the field. Is that dumber than them scoring 28 points in 3 minutes and 50 seconds?
Close second.
Yeah, it's dumb. What a dumb game.
Dumb.
I loved it. Coming back on the other side, Katie, we're going to get into the good, the bad, and the which is going to be your first rodeo around with this, because we usually record on Wednesday mornings and they never play on Tuesdays. And so we're very excited to indoctrinate you into the good, the bad, and the We'll get to that in just 1 second. Before we do that, however, I should tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs, who are the place to go if you want to hire qualified candidates more efficiently. They match open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to achieve your goals. And look, it's a very difficult thing. It's an important thing, hiring people who are going to do the job you want done correctly and have the proper qualifications. And especially if you're running a small business, for example, like, these are very important decisions. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly hire and attract the qualified candidates to your opening jobs with targeting tools that go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post company and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedInNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedInNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Katie, let's get into the good, the bad, and the your maiden voyage here in this segment, which we use to encapsulate our feelings about every Toronto Raptors game. Let's start with the good, shall we? Katie, what was your good from this game? I know it's going to be hard, but what was your good?
I think I probably mentioned most of them already. The defensive wall. I think
they defended their asses off in this game. It was great to see.
Very well. They did. Because, again, as you mentioned earlier, that's kind of been a spotty thing in itself. And I think that if the defensive wall got mentioned by a Milwaukee media member pre-game, asked to Bud. So, and she gave it credit that I think this is where the defensive wall got its origins, which I might want to quibble with just because of Stan Van's, a great man named Stan Van Gundy's. You could Google the clip, form a effing wall.
Yes, we can't do the swears anymore, Katie.
Effing wall.
Yeah.
That, to me, is the origin of the wall, but whatever. I know
everything draws inspiration from something. It's all right.
From Stan Van Gundy, it's true. All roads, Sean. What else? Probably, forcing. There was some palpable frustration, I think, watching Giannis. There was one point when Fred, we didn't talk about this at our dumbest things, when it looked like Bobby Portis, and I stand by this, even though the refs have overturned this since, Bobby Portis walked out of bounds holding the ball, which is what led to possession that led to overtime.
It was a very dumb play.
Pascal pushed him. I don't know. But Fred did definitely push at one point Giannis, who went flying across the floor. That, to me, felt like some pent-up frustration coming out. Grayson Allen shaped frustration, being blasted across the floor. There was a lot. Like, they were good. They wouldn't last very long, but there were good sparks of the kind of like doggedness and tenaciousness, annoyance of the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, this
display.
was like, as far as fake comebacks go, it was the best fake comeback I think we've ever seen. Because I don't actually think they've completed a fake comeback and made it a win.
Well,
I guess maybe if you
those are
complete it,
just
it's not
comebacks,
fake
Sean.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
We
this
just
is
don't- we
now
don't
the
know what those are
standard.
like.
The standard by which all fake comebacks will be measured is this game, for sure. Let's go. My good, Katie. Honestly, that Gary Trent Jr. game tying shot was exhilarating.
Yeah.
I had the best time watching it. My wife did not, because I just like flopped around the room like a fish for a minute, because I didn't really know what to do with myself, considering the quick turnaround that took place in this game, where I just like did not expect them to even sniff tying it once. That was amazing. And look, if you're talking bigger picture stuff, 5 straight 20-point games now for Gary Trent Jr. I know he's been the sort of obvious he's going to get dealt to the deadline guy. Maybe reconsider that? We'll examine that question before the deadline too, but if you're thinking about how to build a team around Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Scotty Barnes, which whatever happens before the deadline, I would presume those 3 guys are still going to be around and will still be the core around which this thing is built going forward. Having a guy who is that shot ready, that unconscious, that accurate, maybe feels like a pretty good outlet to have alongside those guys, and all of the numbers that suggest the Raptors are good at offense when Gary Trent Jr. is on the floor over the last 2 years, maybe those are worth looking at and considering before you ship off one of the only guys on the team who does the skill that the team needs the most. Just a thought. Let's go to the bad, Katie. What was your bad from this game? One sort of, other than gestures broadly, once again. That's been the common theme of this segment. But what was your individual bad thing?
I think the bad to me was that this signaled, like you and I have talked about this before, about the team identity and what it actually is this season. And it's still not really clear to me. However, it clarified in a worse way with last night's game, in that the team looked the most alive when they were the most desperate.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's a position as an NBA team, any franchise really, you want to be in. It means that like you can only compete and like find the spark or the energy, or like even honestly the cohesiveness, because there's some kind of disconnect happening right now too. Right now, I mean, like broadly the last like little while, that you can only find that under immense amounts of pressure. You can't exist like that, right? Like this is not like a formula for just like existing in the long term. So that's a bit worrying to me, and that seemed like the most on display. Not to be a total downer.
No, I think you make a good point. Coming into this game, the homestand, it was all right. It's go time. Like, this is the time to actually prove that the season is worth salvaging and not changing course too much. And
I mean, I will say that like the homestand still provides.
That's
that Charlotte like back to back. You got to win both of those. There are like must win games within this homestand, not just because they're quote like easy wins,
100%,
but because you need to.
You're running out of time to rack up wins. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I was about to go is that, there's still room for this homestand to end up being a success. I said 4-2 was kind of the minimum bar that I was looking for. 5-1 would be fantastic. And that's still, I suppose, in theory on the table. I'm not sure how much confidence last night inspires that they're going to go and run the table for the rest of their time at home. But I'm still going to withhold sort of big picture grand judgments about, the deadline, philosophy and all that until this homestand is up. That was what I said before. I'm not going to change from that, but not exactly inspiring confidence. My bad, Katie, is just the way I felt for Fred VanVleet after that miss in overtime. He looked despondent, and understandably so. And it was sort of more fueled by just like, and look, I really, really have to stop judging my sort of pulse for the fan base based on like what the Twitter people are saying. It's a bad thing that I do. I'm broken, Katie. It's a website that melts your brain, but it's pretty widespread. The just like very angsty, nasty feelings towards Fred VanVleet. And I don't know how as like a human being, as someone who has watched this team with Fred VanVleet for the last 7 seasons, who has watched Fred VanVleet win a title for you while bleeding from the eyeballs, who has watched him go from undrafted free agent to all-star, who has watched this dude be one of the sort of lifebloods of the team over the course of the last 7 years. If you can't find any room for empathy for like the human struggle of what he's going through right now and the heaviness of everything that seems to happen with everything he does on the floor, what are you doing this for? Like, is there no attachment to the player? Is the fact that the player is making your team play less well, like the grounds to just like forget everything he's done good in the lead up to this and just like, oh, cast him off. Team can't win with him anymore, so get rid of him. Like, it's just, there's very, very real arguments on the table. I think I'd probably side on the side that you may have to just move on from Fred VanVleet at the deadline for all the different reasons that we've talked about over the last little while here. But like, to not have at least some empathy for the dude after that finish and to instantly jump to screw this guy, he cost them the game, which he didn't, by the way, because he kept them in it for 3 quarters, as we've talked about, just bums me out, man. I like, there's got to be room for like appreciating the human side of basketball, and I just don't know if Raptors fans are doing that very well right now, Katie. It's a real downer to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I also think that Fred is somebody who's shown only accountability
100%
in his career thus far. So it's weird. It is weird to see, because he was asked about the game. He was when like I saw some flack about the comment that he made of like the air feeling weird or just being a weird as like an excuse, but like that he was asked by Doug,
he's just
how weird
answering
did
a question.
That game feel. So in his answer, he's going to be like, yeah, it felt weird. I'm sure he had some other choice words he may have used first, not being recorded. But but all to say, like, the accountability has always been there. He wears it like very plainly, like as you said. He was wearing it like with the buzzer when he got off the floor. He was wearing it in his post-game interview. I also went back because I was like, is this true? When he said, I don't look at the game-to-game numbers. I like to look at my totals and like where I'm tracking to. And he's like, I'm on par with like my all-star season, which was last season. And he is in all his numbers. He's like, even within this slump, he's like set to hit that. Is that because he's like
outside of the field goal percentage? But yes.
Yeah. Is that because he's clocking like an incredible amount of minutes and that's why he's here already? I don't know. Maybe. And like, to me, again, like this is like indicative of a larger, more problematic hole for the team than it being a reason to scapegoat Fred, because he just doesn't necessarily like visually fit. He's a misfit also because like the team is not organized offensively. Usually that would fall on him. You saw him try and hold it together as best as he could. You can only really do that up to a point. These aren't excuses. Like, yeah, there was probably a better way to play out that final possession.
Sure.
But I also can think in a game, in these last few games, where you haven't necessarily relied upon teammates to make the right move, why you might feel in the moment like, I will just be a bit of a like I will do the ISO like defensive play here.
Yeah.
And also like who is to me like whether it's Grayson Allen, which is infuriating, believe me, I know, or it's like Damian Lillard, or like someone, or Steph, like somebody who is just like known to make those clutch shots, like when it counts.
Yeah. Sometimes
there is no accounting for, like there could not have been like a defensive strategy that would have waylaid that shot. Sometimes that's what's going to happen at the end of a game.
Yeah, like, should Fred have dug down on paper to go and add to the mix of dudes trying to stop Giannis? Maybe not, but also I totally understand the instinct of, oh my God, Giannis is driving towards the basket.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's, I get the instinct of wanting to go and try to stop the freight train man from dunking on you to win a game late. And yeah, it's unfortunate that Fred was the guy who I guess was responsible on paper schematically for the Allen 3. But again, it's possible to have empathy for the dude, also recognize the big picture questions his performances are, creating within the team, while also like there's got to be a way to not be so ghoulish about this all the time. And like the straw, and this isn't like this is like straw man argument going around too, like that I see all over the place. And maybe again, I'm taking too much of my stuff from various online places, but like it's so widespread, it feels like it's maybe just the pulse of the fan base. But the idea that like the media is protecting Fred or something by like offering context and nuance to the talk about him is stupid.
This level, and I will say, like, sorry if this is too insular for people who are not interested in this, but this why aren't you holding, whether it's Nick Nurse, Bobby Webster, Masai Ujiri, to like account? Yeah. Like, why aren't you holding them accountable as a media, quote, media member?
Yeah.
I'm there. How do you want us to do that? Like, how do you imagine that works? And like, honestly, same with players. Like, you are, as you said, you are trying your best to add context. Everyone has their own kind of level of context. Yeah, I try and be as broad picture about things. I am loath to kind of like react in the moment, to my detriment sometimes. And I understand like maybe that looks like, yeah, you're defending somebody, but you can't, like, all of this is so contingent, especially with this team now, on what's come before and like what hasn't changed. And like, there's responsibility there on higher ups. But like, forgive me for in this moment, trying to look at the bigger picture and say like, I don't really think it just like comes down to one thing or another. So but the holding these people to account is something I'm very curious. Just like, what do you want? What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Also, it's sports. Like, how do you hold? Like, look, we've held the team to account for stuff plenty in the past.
To account.
There you go.
For that.
100%. Are we
like a basketball team? I don't know.
Like, we held the team to account for the entirety of the half season Terrence Davis played on the team that he shouldn't have played. Like, there are things worth holding the team to account over. Like the basketball shots not going in. Like, I don't know. That feels a little extreme to me. And there feels like there has to be less of a black and white way to look at things. But hey, maybe that's just, maybe we're the crazy people, Katie. Maybe we're the insane people trying to find, an in-between ground talking about the basketball team. I was going to say we should get to the right now, but the whole game was a and so I feel like maybe that covers it. We've gone long. We're going to wrap it up there. Katie, thank you so much for joining me. I would have wanted no one else to review this game with me. By the way, next week on the podcast, your next appearance, we're going to have a very fun, special, cool guest, which I'm not going to spoil just yet because we haven't figured out an exact recording time, and I don't want to Doug Christie myself like that time I planned to have Doug Christie on the show. He had to cancel at last minute after I teased it all week, and he didn't come on until a year later. We're not going to do that, but we'll spoil the guest once we have it all in ironclad stone. That's not a thing. Katie, anything you would like to promote before we get out of here?
I went on a Fred VanVleet soapbox, much like you, defensive platform earlier this morning on Fan 590. I believe they have a recording of that so conveniently ready. If you want to go back and re-listen to it, you can do that. You can also go to Basketball Feelings, where I know it's 2023. Let's definitely look ahead. But if you feel like looking back one last time, I did the traditional Basketball Feeling of the year, where I asked, and this time 10 people in and around basketball who I really admire and respect, to give their take on the year that was, and either like a play, a on-court moment, an off-court moment, but like, what was the feeling that stuck out to them? It's great.
We love the feelings of the year here. We love Katie. We love Basketball Feelings. We love Dime when Katie's writing for them, and when all the other people too. It's a great staff over there. I do not mean to dismiss the rest of the wonderful Dime staff.
We'll be hearing from Bill.
Yeah, Bill can take it. We'll wrap it there. Thank you so much. We'll be back again tomorrow with Joe Wolfond as we examine the question: to trade or not to trade one Fred VanVleet. We'll dig into all the different tendrils of that, as it turns out, quite complicated conversation. And we'll wrap it there. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.